September 1980. Buffalo, New York. A city on edge. Under the dim glow of streetlights on rain-slicked pavement, an unseen terror is stirring. A phantom moving through the night, selecting victims with chilling precision. Fear, cold and sharp, begins to grip the African American community. They don't know who he is, or why he's hunting them. They only know the attacks are escalating, marked by sudden, brutal violence. This is the story of a reign of terror that bled from Buffalo to the heart of Manhattan, a mystery woven from bullets, blades, and a baffling lack of connection. Until one soldier's rambling confession cracked the case wide open. It begins on September 22, 1980. A Tuesday night in Buffalo. Larry Robinson, an African-American man, is walking home, check in hand, anticipating the quiet relief after a long day. The streets are nearly deserted, the air heavy. The weak streetlights cast long, distorted shadows. He walks close to the buildings, a prickle of unease on his neck. Suddenly, the low hum of an electric motor. A car approaches, slow, deliberate. It stops. Larry tenses. A voice cuts through the quiet. "Where are you going, Larry?" He turns. A man he doesn't recognize, Don Lane. Larry doesn't know him well, but any company feels safer than none. He gets in. The conversation is brief, mundane. They reach the supermarket. The electric car glides to a halt, its motor falling silent. Larry gets out, heading towards the entrance to grab a few things. He glances back at the car. Don Lane sits slumped in the driver's seat. Still. Too still. Larry approaches, peers through the window. He taps the glass. No response. He tries the other side, reaching for the handle. Then he sees it. The unnatural angle of Don's head. The dark stains spreading across his shirt. The torch beam, another passerby has arrived, illuminates the horrifying scene. Don Lane isn't sleeping. He's dead. Blood flows from a head wound. Larry recoils, shock turning his legs to lead. Panic flares. Around the same time, 9:45 p.m., Magdala Gurney, a nurse finishing her shift, heads to the same supermarket. A wave of dread washes over her as she approaches. An inexplicable fear that makes her skin crawl. She quickens her pace, eyes darting nervously. Near the entrance, she sees him. A figure lurking near the cashier booths. Dressed in blue, a hood pulled low over his face. Sunglasses? Even at night. He holds something long and slender, wrapped in a paper bag, the kind used for bagging produce. He seems agitated, restless. Magdala feels a surge of alarm. She hurries inside, trying to shake the image. Inside, she finds the supermarket eerily empty. Then movement near the back. A man, clearly distressed, approaches her. He gestures wildly towards the parking lot, towards Don Lane's car. He's seen the body. He tries the door, knocks on the window, but gets no response. He circles the vehicle. As he reaches the driver's side, Larry Robinson, still reeling, sees him approach. The scene dissolves into chaos. Security guards, alerted by the commotion, mistake the second man for an assailant and fire a warning shot. Larry tries to explain, shouting over the ringing in his ears. Paramedics arrive, working frantically on Don Lane. But it's too late. The 14-year-old boy is pronounced dead. Police swarm the scene. They find Larry Robinson's account credible, if traumatized. They collect evidence. Fingerprints. Witness statements from Larry and Magdala Gurney. And the crucial clue, shell casings. .22 caliber. The electric car Don Lane was driving? Stolen from a local dealership. Police question Larry. Did he know Don Lane well? No. Just a kid from the neighborhood. Did he see anything else? He mentions Don Lane lived nearby, a quiet kid. He seems suspicious, Larry admits, but harmless. Security forces begin canvassing the area near the supermarket. They speak to Barbara Zoniak, a resident whose house overlooks the parking lot. Around 10 p.m., she tells them she heard 3 distinct pops. Gunshots. She looked out her window, saw a figure in a blue hooded jacket, holding something wrapped in paper, running frantically through the parking lot, disappearing between the cars. Her description aligns with Magdala Gurney's. The man in blue, the hooded jacket, the wrapped object. Magdala adds more detail: white, black hair visible under the hood, metallic framed sunglasses. She felt he looked military, or ex-military. Disciplined somehow. The night's horror isn't over. 11 p.m. Cheektowaga, a nearby suburb. Arnold Breen, 32, African-American, grabs a late-night bite at a sandwich shop. As he eats, a stranger approaches. Without warning, 3 shots ring out. Breen collapses. Police and paramedics rush to the scene, alerted by frantic calls. But Arnold Breen's life ebbs away before they can save him. Crucially, there's a witness. Breen's wife, working inside the restaurant. She saw the killer. Her description? A man in a blue hooded jacket, carrying a long object wrapped in paper. Identical to the descriptions from the supermarket shooting. Ballistics confirms it. .22 caliber bullets, fired at close range. The police are staring at a terrifying pattern. 2 murders in one night. Same caliber weapon. Same distinct description of the shooter. The victims? Both black men, seemingly unconnected, living miles apart. Why them? Why this method? Was it robbery? Revenge? Or something far more sinister? Just an hour later, the answer becomes horrifyingly clear. Buffalo, another residential neighborhood. Emmanuel Thomas, 31, also African American, steps out of his house to meet his friend, Francis Cook. A figure emerges from the shadows. Shots erupt at point-blank range. Thomas falls, bleeding heavily onto the pavement. Again, the frantic 911 call. Again, police and ambulance race to the scene. Again, a witness, a neighbor, provides the description: blue hooded jacket, sunglasses, the wrapped object. And again, .22 caliber shell casings litter the ground. 3 black men dead. One night. Same weapon. Same killer. The city holds its breath. Police face an escalating crisis. The connections are tenuous, almost non-existent, save for 2 chilling constants. The victims are all black, and the killer is a ghost in a blue hood, armed with a .22 caliber weapon. Forensics reveals more. The weapon is likely a rifle, its barrel sawed down, small enough to conceal, powerful enough to kill instantly at close range. The point-blank shots leave powder burns around the wounds. A signature. The investigation intensifies. Theories swirl. Revenge killings? A thrill killer racking up a body count? Or the chilling possibility of a racially motivated predator, a member of an extremist group deliberately targeting black citizens? The possibilities are numerous, the leads scarce. The only solid thread is the weapon, the description, and the race of the victims. 2 days later, September 24th. The terror continues. 30 kilometers outside Buffalo. Joseph McCoy, another black man, stands near a church. The figure in blue appears. 3 shots. McCoy falls. Witnesses see the assailant flee. The description matches perfectly. The shell casings match perfectly. .22 caliber. The weapon is identified more specifically now. A Ruger .22 rifle, sawed-off barrel. A popular model among gun enthusiasts. 4 victims. Fear turns to panic, then to anger. The African American community feels hunted, vulnerable. Pressure mounts on the police, on the authorities. The FBI is called in. Composite sketches, based on witness descriptions, flood the media. A $100,000 reward is offered. Even President Jimmy Carter orders a federal task force. The city, and soon the nation, watches, waits, and prays for an end to the killings. But the killer remains elusive, a phantom leaving only death and .22 caliber casings in his wake. October 8, 1980. The pattern shatters. Construction workers report a taxi abandoned for days near their site in Cheektowaga. Police investigate. The car is registered to Edward Paul, a 71-year-old African-American taxi driver. Inside, a scene of unimaginable brutality. Paul's body is discovered in the trunk. He hasn't been shot. He's been beaten. Savagely. His head is crushed, his body covered in defensive wounds and dozens of stab marks. But there's something else. Something profoundly disturbing. The killer used a knife to cut out the victim's heart. It's missing. This is a seismic shift. A terrifying escalation. The meticulous, close-range shootings replaced by frenzied, intimate violence. The autopsy confirms death by blunt force trauma and stabbing. The weapon? A heavy, durable object, possibly a tire iron or similar tool. Parts of Paul's jawbone are missing, along with teeth. Forensic analysis delivers another shock. Traces of blood found in the taxi don't match the victim. Testing links this blood type to evidence recovered from the Arnold Breen murder scene back in Cheektowaga, the same parking lot where parts of a human skull had been found earlier. The chilling implication: Eddie Paul was likely attacked near where Breen was shot, then moved, his body mutilated, and finally dumped in the taxi miles away. 1 day later, October 9th, morning breaks in Buffalo. A citizen discovers another body dumped by the roadside. Ance Jones, 40, African American. Also a taxi driver. He's been slaughtered, throat cut from ear to ear. His chest is ripped open. His heart, like Eddie Paul's, has been surgically removed. 6 victims in under 3 weeks. All black men. But now, 2 distinct methods. The first 4, killed swiftly with a .22 rifle. The last 2, taxi drivers, subjected to horrific beatings, stabbings, and ritualistic mutilation. Investigators face a maddening puzzle. Is it the same killer, devolving into greater savagery? Or are 2 predators stalking Buffalo's black community, unrelated except by their shared, deadly prejudice? The blue-hooded gunman vanished after the McCoy shooting. Now, a new horror emerges, one wielding a knife and unimaginable cruelty. Public outcry intensifies. Accusations fly. The police seem powerless against this escalating wave of racially charged violence. The only link remains the victim's skin color. But the how has changed drastically. The city is paralyzed by fear. The FBI profilers, including pioneers like John Douglas, are brought in. They analyze the scant evidence, the shifting MO. Douglas posits the theory of 2 killers. One, methodical, quick, using a firearm to maintain distance. The other, hands-on, rage-fueled, needing intimate, brutal contact, culminating in mutilation and trophy-taking, the stolen hearts. It's a working theory, but offers little comfort and no immediate leads. The killings seem to pause after Ance Jones. A tense quiet settles over Buffalo. But the fear remains, a constant, cold companion. Is it over? Or is the killer, or killers, merely regrouping? The pause is deceptive. The terror isn't over. It's migrating. December 21st, 1980. Manhattan, New York City. 650 kilometers from Buffalo. The hunt has moved to the concrete jungle. 1:25 a.m. Deep within the subway system. Evan Trazer, an African-American man, is suddenly attacked. A figure lunges, knife flashing. Trazer fights back fiercely, sustaining multiple stab wounds but managing to break free. He stumbles out of the subway car as his attacker melts back into the tunnels. Trazer survives. Bleeding but alive, he gives police a description. The attacker wore a blue hooded jacket and metallic-framed sunglasses. The ghost of Buffalo has surfaced in New York. The assault is just the beginning of a new, terrifying spree. 3:30 a.m. same day. Luis Rodriguez, another young man, is ambushed on a Manhattan street. Multiple stab wounds. He, too, miraculously survives but can offer little more than the now familiar description of the attacker. The weapon is consistent now, a knife. The .22 rifle seems abandoned. But the description remains eerily the same. Blue hood. Sunglasses. Metallic frames. The attacks accelerate. 6:30 a.m. Antoine Davis, African American, is stabbed to death outside a bank in Midtown Manhattan. 10:30 p.m. Richard Duran is attacked, stabbed multiple times. Details are scarce, but the pattern holds. 11 p.m. Back in the subway. Carl Ramsey is set upon by a figure matching the description. He's stabbed repeatedly. The attacker uses the chaotic darkness of the train to vanish. Ramsey manages to stagger onto the platform, collapsing in a pool of his own blood. Citizens call 911. Paramedics arrive quickly, but Carl Ramsey dies just after midnight, less than 24 hours. 4 attacks, 1 fatal, targeting black men in Manhattan. The method is consistent now, the knife. The description of the attacker is consistent, the blue hood, the sunglasses. Is it the Buffalo Killer, having changed weapons permanently? Is it the second Buffalo Killer, the one who mutilated the taxi drivers? Or, impossibly, a third individual mirroring the others? Investigators are drowning in possibilities, starved of concrete leads. The link seems undeniable, the description, the victims. But proving it, catching the phantom, feels impossible. The attacks abruptly stop after Carl Ramsey's murder. Christmas approaches, but a shadow hangs over both cities. Did the killer move on again? Or did something else happen? The police, the FBI, the public, they can only wait. Hoping the silence holds, dreading the alternative. Weeks turn into months. The silence does hold. Christmas 1980 passes, then New Year's. Early 1981 arrives with a fragile sense of relief, but the fear lingers. In Buffalo and New York, communities remain scarred, investigators frustrated. The trail seems cold, then a break. Unexpected. From hundreds of miles away. Fort Benning, Georgia. A senior officer in the Army's Criminal Investigation Division contacts the Buffalo Police Department. He has information. Potentially explosive information. He reports an incident on base that occurred January 13, 1981. A white soldier, 25-year-old Private Joseph Christopher, violently assaulted a black fellow soldier with a knife, attempting to mutilate him. Christopher was subdued and arrested. The reporting officer, Captain Dorothy Anderson, also mentions something deeply disturbing. While under observation, possibly sedated or during psychological evaluation, Christopher was heard muttering, rambling. He spoke of killing people. Many people. In Buffalo. In New York. He couldn't remember how many. Captain Anderson, aware of the high-profile, unsolved killings in those cities, immediately recognized the potential significance. He connected the dots. Could this troubled soldier be the phantom killer they were hunting? The timing fits. The attacks ceased in late December, coinciding with when Christopher might have traveled south or been confined before the assault. Buffalo and Manhattan investigators move swiftly. Joseph Christopher becomes their prime suspect. The disparate threads of the investigation suddenly begin to weave together. They delve into Christopher's background. Friends are interviewed. One, David Robinson, confirms Christopher's obsession with weapons. He recounts trips to Christopher's father's rural home, ostensibly for hunting. Acting on this lead, investigators search the father's house. They find a cache of firearms. Among them, a Ruger .22 rifle. Its barrel is sawed off. The weapon matches the ballistics from the initial Buffalo shootings. They search Christopher's last known residence. There, they find more damning evidence, a pair of metallic-framed sunglasses. And significantly, traces related to the Venice Roger rifle, possibly cleaning supplies or unique markings linking him directly to the murder weapon used in Buffalo. The net closes. The evidence is circumstantial but compelling. The weapon, the sunglasses, the muttered confessions, the timing, the known racial animus demonstrated by the assault in Georgia. Joseph Christopher is extradited to Buffalo. The public prosecution authorizes his referral for trial. Lineups are arranged. Witnesses from the Buffalo crimes are brought in. Magilla Gurney, the nurse who saw the figure lurking outside the supermarket on that first terrible night, identifies Christopher. The memory, the fear, still palpable. That's him, she confirms, the image seared into her mind. Other witnesses concur. The face matches the phantom. The trial begins on April 6, 1982. The defense argues for insanity, requesting Christopher be committed to a psychiatric hospital. Medical evaluations are complex, but the prosecution pushes forward, focusing on the evidence linking Christopher directly to specific murders. Ultimately, Joseph Christopher is held accountable for 3 of the Buffalo killings, the shooting deaths of teenager Don Lane, initially misidentified in some reports, confirmed as Lyndon in court docs, Haron Darren, likely the Arnold Breen victim, name variations common in reporting, and Emmanuel Thomas. The evidence for these cases, ballistics, witness ID, the recovered weapon, is deemed strong enough for conviction. However, the other Buffalo murders, Joseph McCoy's shooting, the brutal slayings of taxi drivers Eddie Paul and Unce Jones, and the entire Manhattan stabbing spree, remain officially unsolved in the eyes of the court. While suspicion points heavily towards Christopher, particularly given his confession and the matching descriptions, the prosecution lacks the direct forensic evidence, like the knife, or clear witness links needed to secure convictions for those specific crimes. This shift in MO continues to muddy the legal waters. The verdict comes down. Joseph Christopher is found guilty on 3 counts of murder. He is sentenced to 60 years in prison. A minimum sentence, the judge notes, with no possibility of parole. He would likely die behind bars. For the communities terrorized for months, the verdict brings a complex mix of relief and frustration. Relief that a killer is off the streets. Frustration that so many victims did not receive official justice in the courtroom. Whispers persist, fueled by reports from fellow inmates claiming Christopher bragged about all the killings, revealing details only the perpetrator could know. But legally, his responsibility for the taxi driver murders and the Manhattan attacks remains unproven. Joseph Christopher's reign of terror lasted just over 3 months, but it carved deep scars into 2 major cities. It exposed vulnerabilities, stoked racial tensions, and left a trail of grieving families. 6 men definitively linked to him by strong evidence or conviction lost their lives: Don Lane, Arnold Breen, Emmanuel Thomas, Joseph McCoy, Unce Jones, Eddie Paul. In Manhattan, Carl Ramsey was killed, and several others bore the physical and psychological wounds of his attacks. The true total may never be known. The case highlighted the challenges of tracking serial offenders, especially those who change their methods or cross jurisdictional lines. It underlined the chilling reality of hate crimes, where victims are chosen not for who they are, but simply what they are. Christopher himself would die in prison from cancer in March 1993, taking any final confessions or clarifications with him. The hearts he stole were never recovered. For the families of Eddie Paul and Unce Jones, and for the victims in Manhattan, questions lingered. Justice felt incomplete. The .22 caliber killer, as he was dubbed, serves as a dark reminder of the shadows that can lurk beneath the surface of society, and the profound, lasting impact of violence fueled by hate. The fear may have subsided, but the memory, like the faint echo of gunfire on a cold Buffalo night, endures.